Unspoken Issues.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Unspoken Issues podcast. Happy holidays to each and every single one of you out there that are listening. We are so glad that you are here to join us in a celebration of 90s comics during this holiday season. And a few days ago, as of this recording, a little bit more than that, but I was looking for some things that we as a group could cover on this show that were holiday themed that fit right in there with everything that's going on. And believe it or not, there's not a shortage of holiday specials, holiday themed books from the 90s. And this one that I landed on, I knew that I had to have these two guys in here to talk about. And that is the Sleepwalker Holiday Special from 1993.
Cover dated 93, released November 24th, 1992.
So right around the holiday season, right at the end. Yeah, I don't want people to mistake that this isn't the holiday season of 93. This is the holiday season of 1992. And that voice you just heard, it's Evan Bevins. Evan, you ready to talk some Sleepwalker tonight?
Even before you invite me to, I'm ready to butt in on your introduction.
I do it to Mark all the time. It's perfectly fine. Chris Armstrong, he's sitting right over there. He's ready to talk some Sleepwalker, right?
Oh, yeah. Wide awake and ready to roll.
All right. Very good. So, yeah, 1992, this is on the shelves. So I'll throw it to you first, Evan. Is this something that you're picking up?
I was still buying Sleepwalker at that point, but I discovered this much later, digging through back issue bins.
Oh, okay. All right.
Did not know that this existed.
Chris, how about you?
Yeah, I want to say I was probably still getting Sleepwalker at this point, but I don't remember. I definitely didn't have this. Mm-hmm. And I think kind of like Evans, I think this is one I discovered years later in the back issues, and maybe I had seen it advertised or something when I was a kid, but when I finally saw it like in a back issue bin, I was like, oh, I don't remember this at all. And I never read it. I've had it a copy for a couple of years now, but I had never actually even read it until we decided to do this episode. So this is new to me.
So 92, the winter of 92, so I'm 14. I don't know if we've got the comic shop in Marietta at that time. So I assume what you have to hope
You didn't have
for,
the current one, I know that.
Well, yeah, that's for sure. Shout out to Asylum Comics down there on 3rd Street, Marietta. So I'm trying to think of where I was buying my comics. It was either the local People's News, which carried all sorts of periodicals. And they had a nice little rack full of comic books in the back. Marvel up top, DC down at the bottom.
It should be.
There was also a small comic book shop, or actually, no, I'm thinking of you go and maybe run into them at Kroger. So I assume that this is an issue retailers have got to make a decision as to whether they're going to take a chance on or not. This is what we see. Cover price is $2. It does say #1 in big, bold font there, but it does say Sleepwalker Holiday Special. So it's not going to be a continued series. It's just a special issue costing $2. So I don't know if this is a situation where retailers are just like, we can't take a chance on this because we don't normally know how $2 comics are going to sell, especially in 92. They weren't too far off from that at that point, though. In 92, we're getting into probably the $1.75 situation. You guys might know more than me. I don't know.
I think all the Image books were $2 or $1.95 when they first started, so it would have been around this time.
Okay. All right. So,
but yeah, I think the standard Marvel comic was $1.25, and then the $1.75 books, I think, were like Ghost Rider and some of the books with higher end paper, and maybe I guess they were available on newsstands as well. But there were some books that were a little more expensive, but I think the standard book was $1.25. So this was almost double that.
Yeah, you're probably going to be a little bit leery taking a chance on trying to get that to sell. I'm trying to get into Mike's Amazing World of Comics. Rest in peace, Mike of Mike's Amazing World of Comics.
So did he pass away recently?
Yeah, I saw it on Twitter. It was probably within the last month. But yeah, on the newsstand at the time, you said November of 92?
Yes.
Let's just talk. I'm going to just throw this out here real quick and tell you what else is on the shelves in November of 92. There's another holiday special. It looks like Clive Barker's Hellraiser Dark Holiday Special #1.
We'll be next year, yes.
All right, then. Darkhawk is hitting issue 23
There's no
at this
place
time.
to go.
Darkhawk 23. The cover of that, my goodness, I don't know if you know that one off the top of your head there, Chris, but it's got...
Is that the robot cover or Android on the cover?
Yeah,
or
it's
maybe
just
it's
something...
the monster with the one eye and the claw.
Let's take a look. Sleepwalker at this time, aside from the holiday special, Sleepwalker was getting ready to get into issue 20, which had a story in it titled Split Decision.
Oh, that's when he and Rick were merged into one being.
That's right.
Ooh.
That's right.
See, I think I was out on... I think I stopped Sleepwalker collection after Color Blindness. I think that might have been the last issue I got of it back then.
Okay.
Couldn't believe he was making out with Spectra, huh?
Quasar's got Punisher on the cover.
Of course it does.
What a combo.
Quasar. Nomad number 9 is out. Let's see. Ravage 2099 is hit issue number 2, Evan.
Oh, I didn't think that got acknowledged on this podcast.
I'll edit that out. Don't worry.
I mean, we're going to have to do Fall of the Hammer eventually, so we're going to have to talk about him, unfortunately.
That's true. What if Barbara Ketch became Ghost Rider?
Hey, I just read that issue a couple of days ago.
No kidding. Oh,
Herb Busick written. I think he wrote that one.
Nice.
I went through and bought a bunch of what ifs that Busick wrote online, and I think that was
good reading. There's some good reading there. Okay, so there you go. That's kind of what else is on the shelves there. In X-Men world, it looks like, oh my goodness, 92, the end of 92 for the X-Men. Strife's making an appearance in Uncanny X-Men. X-Force number 18. That has, oh my goodness, that's more Strife on the cover of that Ghost in the Machine.
Was that Executioner's song?
Yes, it is. Actually, it's part 12 of Executioner's
Oh, there you
song.
go.
So, all right, there you go. So that's a nice little snapshot of what else is on the shelves back in 1992, the end of 1992. So we're going to get into the Sleepwalker Holiday Special. Evan was so kind to write up a synopsis for us here. And
that way I didn't have to get you an actual Christmas present.
I appreciate that. I do appreciate it. It's so funny because I always take on the synopsis, and when I sat down and read this, I read it and I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna have to write the synopsis later. And then 2 days later, I'm like, I don't have to write a synopsis for this book. I was so excited. I really was. I want to throw one more thing at you guys. So I want to get your guys' opinion on the holiday specials. Number one, did you guys pick up any of these things, and what do you expect from them? I'll start with you, Chris. What did you ever go out, grab any holiday specials for Marvel at all?
Yeah, I want to say in the very early 90s, it seemed like they had like a quarterly thing going in like 90 or 91, where they had like a summer special and a winter special. I had a couple of those.
That's where we met Squirrel Girl.
That's right.
I did not have, I don't think I had the one with Squirrel Girl's first appearance, but when I was first getting into comics, that was a lot of bang for your buck. Those were pretty big issues. As I got further along, I wanted to read more stuff that was continuing every month or whatever. So I had a couple of those, maybe 3 of them. As far as like actual holiday specials, I'm having trouble thinking of any that I actually bought in those days. I've gotten a handful of them in more recent years. If there's like a DC, a lot of times puts out a Halloween special or a Christmas special, and if there's a writer or artist that I like doing a book in one of the, or doing a story in one of those, I will sometimes pick them up, but not frequently.
When somebody tells you, "Hey, this is a holiday special," what are you expecting?
Probably like an anthology thing where there's like probably 8 to 10 different short stories, and maybe one of them is going to be good.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That's fair. Yeah. Evan Bevins, same thing to you, man. What are your thoughts? Were you picking these things up, and what did you usually expect from these?
Not usually. It just depended on opportunity. I got the Squirrel Girl one because my stepdad brought it to me because it was at the hospital gift shop when I had about a food poisoning. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, it could be fun. And now I did grab a few of those Marvel Holiday specials at a con years later because they had Art Adams covers on them.
Yeah.
He actually did a lot of the covers for those quarterly ones too. So yeah, Art Adams is a good way to get me to pick something up. But no, I never went out of my way. I kind of expected what Chris did. A lot of stories, generally kind of filler level, but you could happen upon something good every once in a while, like say the introduction of Squirrel Girl. Let's see, that's 3 times. Yeah. 5 minutes. So
she's not Beetlejuice, Evan. She's not going to pop up if you say her name.
Daggone it. But you know what? She answered one of my tweets once. So
hey,
Joke's on you. But yeah, it could be fun. But yeah, I was probably looking for more of a continuing story with my disposable comic income at that point.
I hear you. I feel kind of the same way. I'm expecting anthology, so I know I'm going to get a lot of stories in here. Holiday special, it's going to be clearly stories geared to whatever holiday it is that they're celebrating. If it's normal, that's what I'm expecting, I should say. Is that what we get? I don't know. But holidays, like I haven't had a chance to read the Punisher holiday special. I need to, just because I want to see what pearls of holiday wisdom can I pull out of that. But yeah, I expected to do something with the season, and right.
If you get them a gun, get them ammo too.
Are the stories going to matter? No, that's what I always landed on, and that's why I never picked them up.
Yeah,
because
there was one holiday special in the 90s that is really good. A couple of years ago, I guess 2 Christmases ago, I was exposed to COVID. I didn't end up having it, but because I had been exposed to a coworker who had it, I kind of quarantined myself for a couple of days, and it was right around Christmas. And so I ended up reading a bunch of Christmas-themed comics, and one of which was the Batman Adventures holiday special. So it had 3 or 4 holiday stories in the Batman animated style and everything. And then I'm not sure if the comic came first or the episode, but there was an episode of the animated series that adapted some of those stories into the show. I think the comic came first, but
okay.
But that's an example of one of the good ones.
Okay, all right, yeah. And just like Evan said, sometimes there might be a diamond in the rough. There, you might be able to get something that really is pretty impactful in some of these quarterly specials or these holiday specials, such as, Evan, what was it again?
The first appearance of Monkey Joe.
Oh, Monkey Joe. He swerved, but that's the truth. He's not lying. Monkey Joe. All right. All right, Evan.
I'm not a puppet to dance when you tell me to.
All right. Well, let's get into this book here. This is the Sleepwalker Holiday Special, $2 US. You got the creative team. By the way,
I do.
Quesada cover, folks.
Yep.
Okay. Joe Quesada is still probably top 10 for me when it comes to artists. I'm a huge fan. I really do enjoy his work. But we got a Joe Quesada cover. Is Paul Miotti in here at all? No. Okay. I don't know who.
Kevin Nolan's the anchor on the cover.
Okay. All right.
And let me just say, it's a good cover. But if the words "holiday special" weren't under Sleepwalker's name on the title, not sure you would know that this was a holiday special. Although, to be fair, That does look like a Middle Eastern locale behind Sleepwalker, and Christmas did start in that region. So
true. That's true. All right, so Evan, you have the floor,
I am
man.
Being too picky. Maybe Sleepwalker wants to see the original nativity site.
Never know. You have the floor, sir. Go for it.
Sleepwalker Holiday Special #1. The first story is Tricks of the Trade, written by Tom Brevoort, who I think most of us know more as an editor than a writer, and Mike Kantarovich. Penciler is Bruce Zick, inks by Armando Gill, letters by Chris Eliopoulos, who is still lettering stuff to this day, I believe.
Yep, he is.
Colors by Marie Javins, who I believe did some work on another Marvel classic of the late 80s, early 90s, NFL Super Pro.
Oh, look out.
Yeah, nice. Edited by Don Daly, editor-in-chief Tom DeFalco. Now, if you don't count the unannounced pinup of Sleepwalker on the first page, the story actually opens not on our hero, but on Harold Pruitt, a man who's been dumped by his girlfriend, fired, and is about to be evicted all at Christmas time.
It's rough.
In the snow, he finds a credit card labeled Jyn, that's spelled J-Y-N. As he wrestles internally with whether to use it to solve his problems, a voice, in red text boxes and jagged letters to give you an idea of which divine entity on the shoulder it represents, encourages him to go ahead and do it. After checking in with Sleepwalker, who's marveling at snow and reflecting on just why he chooses to protect humanity, we find Harold at an ATM making a big withdrawal with the help of the credit card and that voice. The voice tells him there's a little something extra he needs to do to seal their covenant before he can get the even bigger rewards. Sleepwalker is soon drawn back into the mind of his host, Rick Sheridan, who provides helpful context about his job as an apartment building superintendent and his recent breakup with girlfriend Alyssa, just in case you weren't reading Sleepwalker at this time. Harold, meanwhile, gets to work doing the bidding of the voice, assembling items of personal importance to him and uttering an incantation that conjures the source of the voice, a 7-foot-tall man in a suit wearing a fez on his head. Mm-hmm. I don't know why I added on his head. I started to say, where else would you wear a fez? But I don't want any.
You don't want the answer.
No. Anyway, the new arrival tells Harold to call him Mr. Gin and assures him that he'll get to serving him just as soon as he checks in on a couple things, namely the whereabouts of folks like the Sorcerer Supreme, the Spirit of Vengeance, and the Protector of the Universe. Once he finds out that Dr. Strange, Ghost Rider, and Quasar are all indisposed, his magics also warn him about a young man fixing a sink in an apartment building, namely Rick Sheridan. Mr. Gin doesn't know why Rick poses a threat, but he decides to deal with the situation by pulling a finger off his hand, which turns into some kind of little monster. He sends the creature to attack Rick, plunging him into a dream state where he's a kid, his dog dies, and his parents move to Alaska without him.
Oh, jeez.
But since this is happening in his subconscious, Sleepwalker arrives to straighten things out. Drained from the encounter, Rick falls asleep, and Sleepwalker emerges. In case you're not familiar with Sleepwalker, that's how he works. When Rick's asleep, he walks in our world. When Rick's awake, he goes back in his head. Sleepwalker catches the critter, which he identifies as a mind mite, leading him to assume that it must be the work of, quote, one of the ancient tricksters. Mr. Gin, meanwhile, has been helping Harold by producing incriminating of his photos of his boss doing something that thankfully we aren't shown. And then he takes him to Rockefeller Center, where Harold's ex Ellen is spending time with her new boyfriend, Jerry Costanza. Not that there's anything wrong with that. When Harold says he wants Mr. Gin to break them up, Gin obliges by attacking them with the skating rink's ice. At that point, Sleepwalker intervenes, calling Mr. Gin by the name Genie. Gin is shocked to see a Sleepwalker on this plane of existence, since they're usually denizens of the mindscape. They fight, but when Sleepwalker is unable to overpower his foe, he instead turns to Harold, asking if this is what he really wants. Harold decides, nah, this is a bit much, which in effect renounces Jin's gifts and transforms him into a devilish-looking creature. Sleepwalker expected him to then get transported back from whence he came, but uses his warp vision, which was a power I forgot he had, to discover that there are native energies binding him to this plane. I love comic book science. So he solves that problem by using his warp beam to stab/electrocute him with a Christmas tree, in case you were forgetting that this is a holiday special. That does the trick. Jin vanishes into another plane, vowing revenge. Harold tosses the credit card, but a homeless man picks it up, and a familiar voice encourages him to use it.
Okay, so we got Sleepwalker here. As far as, by the way, Jin has some great nipple piercings. That just showed up here. I just realized that he's got earrings all over the place, and both of his nipples are pierced. Ladies and gentlemen, unbelievable. Okay. As far as
so got a belt holding up his diaper or loincloth?
I thought it was the champion of something.
Oh, yeah. You know what? You're probably right, Jesse. You're probably right.
He had to have won that championship at least a millennia ago. All right. So, yeah, we get the typical genie out of the bottle story here, which is pretty interesting. And be careful what you wish for, ladies and gentlemen.
Not limited to 3 wishes.
That's true. That's true. Can I just ask you guys what you thought of the art? I'll start with you there, Chris. This is Bruce Zick, which I can't say that I'm not very familiar with any of his work. Do you?
Yeah, I've never heard of this guy. I don't think he does. Maybe it's because he's doing Sleepwalker. Maybe he's trying to emulate Brett Blevins a little bit.
Wait. I'll throw something at you, and I bet you'll be like, okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
Pirates of Darkwater.
The animated series?
Well, there was a comic book. I remember seeing some issues of Pirates of Darkwater based off of the animated series. Mm-hmm. But that art right there. He also had a run in Thor, apparently.
A lot of nipple piercings on Pirates of Darkwater.
I don't know about that. But he doesn't really have a very long career here. It goes from 90 to 94, at least as far as I can tell. Not in comics, right.
I've Googled him. He is a production designer. He worked on The Iron Giant, one of my favorite movies.
Wow. Okay.
Concept artist, has worked for Pixar, DreamWorks, Disney, and Blue Sky on films like Hercules, Rapunzel, Tarzan, Prince of Egypt, Finding Nemo, and WALL-E.
Okay.
So that's a resume. He's done stuff in other media.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like he probably got in to comics when the boom was going on, and then once it started to slow down, he transitioned to a much more lucrative field.
Yeah, he figured out a place where they definitely pay him better.
Yeah, it looks like he was kind of trying to emulate Blevins, who was the artist on Sleepwalker up through at least all the issues I read. I don't know how long he stayed on the book. I know he later did Ghost Rider and some Batman stuff, but I like it. It's not great. Like, it's not, I wouldn't be seeking out books that this guy had done just because of his art, but it kind of fits Sleepwalker, especially the way he designed, like the way he draws the main character, the gangliness, and he does give, like in Sleepwalker's face, he gives him more, like, he looks even more alien with a lot of like the wrinkles and creases in his face and stuff. So I like the way he draws Sleepwalker, and his design, I guess, on Jin and on the little gremlin guy are both pretty good. But overall, he wouldn't be one of my favorites, no.
Yeah, okay.
But he does a decent enough job with this one.
Yeah, I'm not. I said it was a bit too exaggerated for me. It's not what I'm used to. That's my personal opinion. Evan, what do you think here, man? Do you have any commentary about that?
I feel like Chris and I should argue more. We agree a lot. I don't think it's bad art. It's not my cup of tea. Like, I wouldn't go. I said I grab stuff if there's an Art Adams cover. This wouldn't draw me in. Not because it's bad, just because I don't know. It's not my preference. It does fit pretty well with Sleepwalker, and it does decent with the atmosphere of the story. I just like some of the human looking the human characters. I don't know. It's a little bit jarring, but yeah, he draws a great Sleepwalker.
Yeah. Evan, you would know this a little bit more than me. I sent you guys a picture of that one panel where Rick is kind of upset about the fact that he's trying to keep his mind off of his former girlfriend, Alyssa. Any idea how long those two were apart? Like, was this a real soon thing? Because he still has her picture out on his table. And go ahead.
It's been a while since I've read it, so I don't remember the timeline. I know they were split up when we did the Sleepwalker Darkhawk crossover, because that's when he met Janine.
Oh, right.
But she was always a supporting character in the book. I felt sorry for him sitting there eating his cereal and looking over at this photo of his former girlfriend, and it's rough around the holidays too. Yeah, and he doesn't even get to visit his family because he's got to fix sinks. And
well, that's what you get being a maintenance man. 24/7, brother.
Yeah, but he gets a free apartment in New York City, so.
Not all bad.
I do want to say what a weird ritual it is to bring this genie from whatever dimension that this guy has to do. Like, he has to grab a table lamp and a picture and
it's things that are important to him.
Okay. All right.
It's not just random stuff.
They're not much, but they're all I've got. Okay. All right. Let's see.
He is kind of pitiful. You do feel sorry for the guy that Mr. Jin's like, hey, so now we'll make all your wildest dreams come true. And he's like, I don't really have those.
Well, that's sad.
Yeah.
I did find it interesting that this Jin pops up, and he's like, oh, let me do a check. Make sure all these other guys that could possibly thwart my plans and where they're at. And it's cool to see the little reference to Doctor Strange, Ghost Rider, and Quasar. That was pretty neat. And the dream sequence that poor Rick had to go through. Oh, that was rough. Just watching them bring the dead dog outside. Yeah. That was like, man, that is so sad. Your dog is dead, and just as well enough, because that's one less thing we'll have to pack. I was like, oh, wow, okay, this is a rough nightmare, buddy. And then at the very end, the only thing he has left is the snowman, and the snowman's like, buck up, little buddy, you've still got old Frosty, and then his nose falls off and he starts to melt. Sad stuff. Now, Chris, you're the Seinfeld fan.
Oh, yeah.
Jerry Costanza.
I'm glad I'm not the only one who noticed Jerry Costanza.
Yeah,
I for Kramer to show up at some point.
Yeah, I'm surprised his girlfriend wasn't named Elaine Kramer.
Yeah.
What is her name again? Her name is actually Elaine.
It was Ellen.
Ellen. Yeah. So close. That's close.
In my headcanon, her last name is Kramer.
I'll take it.
Making it official.
The Christmas tree attack. Like using the Christmas tree to attack Jin, it's a little bit different. And I think it may possibly be the only the only thing that's related to the holidays in this, other than the fact that you've got some broke down despair for the guy that gets the credit card in the first place. What was his name again?
Harold Pruitt.
Oh, poor Harold. But that's the only thing that really kind of made me go, oh, it's the holidays. That's it. There wasn't anything else. Go ahead.
Yeah, just the snowman in the dream, and then them being in the ice skating rink with the big tree in New York and stuff. But yeah,
that's it.
More holiday stuff in this one than there is in the second story, though.
Well,
the second story is just very clearly, hey, we've got an extra Sleepwalker story.
Yeah. Like they were probably going to do an annual, and then that got canceled, so they just do it in here, maybe.
Yeah. All right, Chris, you have the floor here, sir. What are your thoughts on this issue?
I was going to mention Tom Brevoort. He wrote this, and I think this might be the only writing credit he has. Listened. Say again?
No, he's got Fantastic Force, Chris.
Oh, that's right. Okay, my bad. But I actually listened to him. A buddy of mine, a couple of my friends who have a comic shop here in town, they had a podcast for a while. I don't think they're doing it anymore. But a year or two ago, they actually had an interview with him, and they asked him at one point about why he only has ever been an editor and hasn't done much writing. And he mentioned, I guess he did mention Fantastic Force, and then he mentioned this Sleepwalker Holiday Special as like the few examples of writing he's done, kind of derisively. I've never really read Fantastic Force, so I can't speak to that, but this isn't a bad one-off Sleepwalker story. I did like seeing this little Gremlin thing that also kind of fits into the Christmas tradition.
That's true.
Gremlins is an awesome Christmas movie.
I won't deny you that's for sure.
You mentioned the nipple rings, and I gotta say, this wasn't a Marvel comic. If this was an indie book or something, like those would have been too easy a target for Sleepwalker to take.
That's true. You grab a hold and pull, sir.
But that's pretty much all I got. Really, you kind of mentioned everything else that I was thinking of. Like again, like you said, I like seeing a quick glimpse of Doctor Strange and Quasar and those guys when he was trying to see who was going to be a threat to him. But yeah, solid one-off Sleepwalker book, and he doesn't have a whole lot out there outside of his own series. So
it's true.
He has this, and I guess that Robert Kirkman had a one-off, right, that he did in the 2000s.
Well, yeah, he did one issue that basically started to kind of retell the origin, and then it never went anywhere. So every once in a while, he pops up in somebody else's book. Possibly just to keep the copyright alive.
I believe he was in the Marvel team-up book that Kirkman did with the Legion of Losers, right?
Yes.
Was he one of those?
That's a fun story.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's pretty much all I got.
Okay. Well, Evan, what are you thinking here, man? This first story.
Yeah, I thought it was a good, just, hey, this is Sleepwalker. It almost feels, except for the references to Christmas, it feels like a pretty timeless or evergreen, pun not intended, for story. So, yeah, they do a good job of, if you're not familiar with Sleepwalker in this story and the backup story, they do a good job of letting you know the status quo and how the character works, what makes him interesting, without you having to have any other knowledge. I don't know if it's going to make somebody go pick up Sleepwalker, especially, and like I said, I don't want to rag on Dick's art because it's ages better than I could do, but I don't know. It's not the kind of thing that I'm going to go, I want to see more of this. Mm-hmm. I like it because I already like Sleepwalker, but I thought it was a pretty good story.
Yeah, let's just say, if I want to criticize this book...
Let it out, Jesse. Let it out.
If I'm going to criticize this book for anything, it's like, okay, I expected some type of, like, holiday message. You can tell a story here with Sleepwalker and also wrap it into some type of Christmas lore, possibly.
No, this is a Shane Black-style Christmas story.
Okay.
Christmas Jesse, setting on. Stab the villain with a Christmas tree. What more do you want?
Wow. Well, that's all I could criticize it for. That's all I'm going to criticize it for. Yeah, I mean, as far as reading it, I had a good time too. It did feel like, okay, this is like I said, genie out of the bottle. Careful what you wish for. All goodness, this villain who I can already tell you, unless Evan Bevins knows for sure, but I could lay money down here that Jin's not coming back at any point soon. So it's
Googling now.
One-off villain. That's not going to be a thorn in Sleepwalker's side. He's gone, and it's just like, okay, here's the big bad. You figured out a way to kill him. Good job. Here we go, Sleepwalker. All right. Okay.
Jesse,
so next,
Jen doesn't even have a page on the Marvel fandom wiki.
Did you put the AI after it?
Oh, you know what? I didn't, but given the other results that came up, I would think that it would have picked him up.
Yeah, there's
no.
You just
wait, no, he does show up in the Sleepwalker Holiday Special. That did show up.
Okay, all right, number
when
one.
I searched for him, so let's see. Mr. Jen. No, there's not even a link.
Yeah.
He does get top billing among antagonists, just above Thaddeus Atwater, Harold's boss.
All right, seems appropriate.
Wait, okay. Yeah, it just links to the Jinn, DJINN.
Oh, okay.
Page. So maybe he gets mentioned in that, but no, him by himself.
That's it.
No.
All right,
I would say you'll have to wait until the Sleepwalker Disney Plus series, but they're kind of pumping the brakes on some of those, so we might not get that after all.
Daggone it! All right, well, what's
next? Run out of stuff eventually.
Yeah, right.
They're gonna have to resort to Sleepwalker and Darkhawk and maybe even Super Pro eventually.
That's right.
Get back in good with the NFL.
There you go, or at least Kickers Inc.
Oh. I got that's one of the things I picked up at the con. I picked up issues 1 through 10 and number 12 of Kickers Inc. for, I think there were 3 comics for $1. And they were just, I was like, well, there's almost a whole run here. Look at me go.
Ron Friends Classics.
That's right.
Oh man, Jesse, I was wrong. I don't have Kickers Inc. number 11.
Oh man, that's a bummer. That is a bummer. All right, well, let's go ahead. We'll get into this next story. I'll give the floor back to you here, Evan. What happens next in our Sleepwalker Holiday Special?
Well, after another Quesada pinup, we get a bonus story, Insomnia, also written by Brevoort and Kantarovich, with art by, it says, Joe Phillips and Company, letters by Dave Sharp, and colors by Mike Bernardo. Sleepwalker interrupts a museum robbery in which a security guard is shot, but Rick wakes up suffering a bout of indigestion, which yoinks Sleepwalker back into his mind.
Indigestion, I think, is a nice way of putting it, because maybe it is. What is the stuff that he's trying to drink? Bromide, something? What is it?
I had to look that up.
Oh, what is it?
It's like an antacid thing.
Okay, well, maybe it is indigestion. I mean,
what does he say? Rick said, even a 3-year-old knows better than to eat Chinese, Mexican, and Italian all in the same night. I don't even think it matters the food. I think if you have 3 different dinners all at once, you're going to regret it.
Oh, man.
Maybe he just hit one of those like really wide-ranging buffets. In which case, hey, been there, done that, buddy.
This must have been really bad for him. My goodness. All right, sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, you're good. So Rick goes back to sleep, allowing his alien mind mate to resume his pursuit of the thieves and get the wounded guard to a hospital. Sleepwalker uses his warp beam to immobilize some of the thieves, but Rick wakes up again, causing Sleepy to fade and vow revenge.
Yeah.
Once he's snoozing again, Sleepwalker angrily rushes to finish the job. But before he can, Rick stirs again, causing the alien to begin to fade. This time, before he vanishes, he seizes on the criminal's belief that he's a ghost and vows to haunt them until justice is served. As we learn from a TV news report playing while Rick gets dressed the next morning, the crooks believed Sleepwalker to be the ghost of the guard they shot, unaware that he got the man to a hospital where he's expected to make a full recovery.
Yes, indeed. All right. Well, there it is. How many pages was that? Like maybe 8?
I think it was 12.
12? Okay. All right. Well, I'm not going to start with notes here. I'll let you go first there, Chris Armstrong.
Yeah, I don't really have a whole lot there. I do like that Rick's diarrhea is Sleepwalker's worst enemy in this story. It did seem weird when he was like out for revenge, like as Evan put it, because they kept getting away. Like, it's not their fault Rick can't stay asleep.
Right.
Good use of his warp beam, warping the dock and everything, and the boat, I guess, at the very end. And I did kind of like his plan to trick them into thinking he was the ghost of the security guard. Because I was reading it, and I was tempted to go back, because I was like, did the security guard die? I thought he
I was wondering that too.
And then, of course, at the very end, at that last page, it reveals that he survived or whatever. But yeah, it was pretty good. I think I liked this one a little more, just because maybe it was shorter and more to the point, real quick, a little adventure, and I don't think there's a pinup before this story in between. I don't think that's Quesada. It might be. I can't tell because
it does not look like his signature on that.
Yeah,
like
the signature is.
Oh, there's a Q. I thought there was a Q down there on the.
There's a Q.
Yeah, but
and it's got the little J hanging down. Compare that with the full Quesada signature on the cover.
Yeah, it could be. It could be him there too. But he definitely did the one at the end, which is really cool, with the warping all around him, and you see Rambo and Rick and the TV and everything. That one's really cool. That would have been a cool Sleepwalker poster to have,
Yeah, you're right, Evan. I think that does kind of match. It's how old am I? 45. That's the first time I realized that. Now. That's the first time I've realized that's a J on the bottom of that Q. Learn something new every day. Well, yeah, let me go ahead and go next here. A lot of the stuff it's just hilarious that no matter what, Sleepwalker is trying to stop these evildoers, and then he's always woken up. Or well, let's try that again. He's always recalled back because Rick just cannot stay asleep because of what's going on with his digestive issues. It's hilarious. I think it's pretty funny. I think there's
at least this time, calling back to colorblindness, he didn't go in and mess with his brain to knock him out.
Yeah. True. Oh man, no, let's not even go there.
I should also say I do like Joe Phillips and company, whatever that means. I do like the art in this one a little better. It looks a little more cartoony, not really in the same style as what the Sleepwalker regular series was doing, but I like the art a lot more in this story.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there. Well, what I thought they were going to go with, I thought Sleepwalker was going to probably run with some kind of like Ghost of Christmas Future, Past, Present type of deal somehow. I thought maybe he was going to try and pull that off because at one point he becomes incorporeal, and I was like, oh, okay, but no, I'm the ghost of the...
It's not a Christmas story, Jesse.
Yeah, it's not a Christmas story. Clearly, I am hoping for too much here. Mm-hmm. But regardless, it's a fun time just watching Sleepwalker have to deal with the fact that Rick can't stay asleep, and the fun and the reason that he can't stay asleep is pretty funny. And these they're criminals and they shot a man, but it's so funny because they think they get away, and he shows back up again. They're like, oh my goodness, thank goodness he went away. And then he shows back up again. And I was like, okay, that's pretty funny. But anyway, what are you thinking here, Evan?
Well, first of all, can you name another comic where the bad guys almost got away because the hero's alter ego couldn't stay off the toilet?
No, sir.
This might be the most, impactful Marvel story involving a toilet since the time Wolverine hid an Infinity Stone in a toilet at Madripoor to give to Black Widow.
Perfect.
That happened. Look it up. Or go to asterisk51.blogspot.com. So
Shameless.
Don't bother with that Google stuff. Anyway, I think this is a great... Maybe the term is inventory story for Sleepwalker. This shows you Sleepwalker, except for the whole I will have vengeance. That was a little weird. Or maybe I just need to go back and read the old stories again. But it shows you the basics of how Sleepwalker and Rick's relationship works and the unique challenges Sleepwalker has when fighting crime. I think they've only done one version of Sleepwalker for HeroClix, but or at least the only one that I have, you roll a die like every so often, and if you hit a 1, Rick wakes up and you have to put the piece back in the starting area.
Oh, bummer.
So, which is one of the more comic accurate effects they have. So that's pretty cool. And this just it takes one aspect of Sleepwalker and builds a story around it, and it's a pretty fun one.
All right. Let's pick some panels, folks. Let's start. We'll divide these up. 2 stories. We got 2 separate arts. 2 separate artists here. So let's take a look at our first one. And Chris, what are you going to roll with here as far as a panel goes in this first story?
I actually only picked one from the first one, so I'll do that one, and then you guys get back to me on the second one. But,
okay. All right.
I just went with the splash page on page 3, which is just Sleepwalker perched up on the building with the gargoyles. I liked that one quite a bit. I thought that was a pretty striking image. Got the shading around the eyes of Sleepwalker, and you see just the red eyes glowing through. I kind of liked that one.
It threw me off for a second. I had to look at that and make sure that his fingers were not his toes. because I don't know why I thought that for a second. I was like,
because
no, that's
you
his
thought he
arm.
had some festive Christmas socks on, and once again, there was just not enough Christmas for you.
That's true. But yeah,
I'm
that's a good
imagining
thing.
you with like a report card that you judge comics by, and like first one is it about Christmas? Yes, no.
No.
I realize this is only for the holiday special, but it's funnier my way.
I'll go next then. I will take the panel where Sleepwalker is flying off of the building, where he looks all dangly and his like abdomen is all sunk in. Again, you guys talked about how the art style definitely fits Sleepwalker. I think it makes him look pretty scary, definitely alien-like. So I'm going to roll with that one because that's probably what I believe is the best representation of the lanky green-skinned Sleepwalker. So Evan, you got a pick there?
Yeah, I'm going to go on top right of page 6 with Sleepwalker getting back to Rick's apartment and petting Rambo. Looking at it again, Rambo's skeleton seems a little pronounced, so maybe Rick should be feeding him better, but really I just like the juxtaposition of Sleepwalker looking terrifying and creepy and Rambo being like, hey dude, what's up? So the natural,
I did
the
notice
supernatural.
you can really see the spine on Rambo there.
Poor dog. Come on. All right. Well, let's take a look at our next story here.
Couldn't you have at least put some reindeer antlers on the dog? Come on.
Oh, that'd been perfect.
It's supposed to be a Christmas story, guys.
Come on, holiday special. What are you talking about? Nothing special about this. Okay. All right. Next up. So with the next story, as I'm scaling through here, I will go first, and I am going to go with Sleepwalker's mind. What is it? No, warp beam. Warp beam?
Yep.
Yeah.
I always try and figure out what that thing can do. And one of the cooler parts in this story where he uses it is when they're in the van trying to get away, and he like blows the back of the van open with his warp beam. That's cool. So I'm going to take that panel where the van and the back of it is just like peeling apart. So there's that one. Evan, you got one?
Third to last page, where Sleepwalker is getting ready to be yanked back into Rick's mind, and he's got one eye bulging and one eye squinting, and he's really frustrated and trying to figure out what he can do. I love the expression on his face. I also imagine that Rick had that same look on his face earlier in the evening, if you get my drift.
Well, you took mine, Evans.
Oh, man. I thought I was doing you a favor by not swiping the big splash page.
No, that's what I'll go with. The 2-page splash where he's unleashing the warp beam on the water and the boat and everything. That's pretty epic.
Yeah, bro has a 9 Inch Nails shirt on, by the way. It looks like.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. All right.
You're in the 90s.
He's not the guy that hurt himself today, though.
Oh, see.
Because it's the only 9 Inch Nails song I know. Sorry. It's a great cover they did of that Johnny Cash song.
All right, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That is our discussion on the Sleepwalker Holiday Special #1 from the winter of 1992. It's a fun book. We talked about it. There were some we pulled some references to the holidays in there. Regardless, we talked about Sleepwalker. That's what we did, and we
Always
don't do
a good
that
time talking about
Whenever you
sleep.
talk about Sleepwalker, it feels like Christmas.
There it is. That might, yeah. There you go. All right, let's go ahead. We'll get into plugs. Chris Armstrong, you're up first here, man. What do you got going on over there in podcast land?
Yeah, I do another podcast with my buddy AJ where we talk about direct-to-video and made-for-TV movies primarily, and that's called Small Screeners. You can find it on pretty much any podcatcher. By the time this comes out, I'm assuming this will be out before the end of the year, so anytime now we should have a new episode on Small Screeners up of something comics people might be a little bit interested in. We're going to be talking about the 1989 Punisher starring
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, that should be out close to the end of the year, so you got to check that out. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram and Threads and Blue Sky, all that stuff. It's at BrodyMan34. I'm pretty much on all those social medias at that handle.
Okay, very good. All right, Evan Bevins, let's hear it. Let's talk about Asterisk. I'll say it right. Asterisk 51.
asterisk51.blogspot.com. You can read about some other adventures of Sleepwalker, primarily his time with the Secret Defenders, hunting the made-for-TV serial killer Roadkill.
Ooh.
Such an absurd story. And Jesse, that's where he teams up with the Punisher.
Look out. Look out.
There you go. I'll be sure to send you a link. And I also am working my way through NFL Super Pro. Sadly, has not featured any guest appearances by Sleepwalker and Darkhawk. Just Spider-Man and Captain America, those guys. And Lawrence Taylor.
Oh, LT. All right, good old LT.
So, and then, and I occasionally delve into movies, especially movies you can find at Dollar Tree.
That's right.
They are many and varied, sometimes related to comic books, sometimes not remotely, sometimes, fortunately, starring Amy Adams. So, a little something for everybody. And then you can also listen on this channel. Jesse and I talk about Marvel Snap, the Marvel mobile game. We may even have an opportunity for Chris Armstrong related to that.
Look out.
And occasionally I butt in on other shows over at Magazines and Monsters, working my way through Thor the Eternal Saga, a.k.a. Thor the Eternal Saga, with Billy D and Ed Moore, and having some fun doing that. There's some crazy stories in Thor's history, too. So, and you can find me on Twitter at Evan_Bevins.
Beautiful. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as Evan said, right here on the Source Material Comics feed, we've got Snap Material, which is everything Marvel Snap related that we can talk about or that we have time to talk about. We also have the Source Material Comics podcast. Right now, if you hop into the recent archive of Source Material, you'll probably hear a lot of Mark Radulich and myself talking about a series of comics. Recent episode that aired as of recording was he and I talking about Scott Snyder's The Swamp Thing series from 2011, which was probably one of the shortest conversations Mark Radulich and I had on an 11-issue series of all things. We went 11 issues on that thing, and Mark was just not impressed and didn't have much to say. Of course, it was the third podcast of the night, aired out of sequence here, but he was not too happy. Didn't have a whole lot to talk about, but either way, it was about a 20-minute podcast. You could hear we did have some opinions, so it's not like you're going to just get no content, but check that out. And then, of course,
it's hard to get excited about Swamp Thing content when Heather Locklear is not involved.
That's the truth. That's the truth. But yeah, and also right here, the Unspoken Issues podcast, where I get together with these guys, a couple other guys, which is Derry and Dean Compton, and we talk about 90s comics in affiliation with the Unspoken Decade. So check that out. With that being said, we are rolling out of here. That is Evan Bevins. That is Chris Armstrong. And I am Jesse Bumbly Starcher. We are out of here. Thanks for joining us. Unspoken Issues is part of the UnspokenDecade.com, the home for 90s comics, blogs, and podcasts. Unspoken Issues also has a Facebook group you can join if you are interested. Just search the Unspoken Issues podcast and request to join. All of this would not be possible without W2Mnet.com and the Radulich and Broadcasting Network, so make sure to seek them out for more podcasts. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please feel free to share, and we look forward to entertaining you again soon.